Christine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Embrace the Squiggle. We are Colleen.
And Christine.
And this is episode 107 with Carrie SWAIR, and it is already 2026. This blows my mind. That feels like it should be somewhere in the future and not current day. Welcome, Carrie. I am so excited to have you on today. And Carrie's someone who, on the Embrace the Squiggle TikTok, I was scrolling one day and Carrie showed up with her company and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And I was like, hey, do you have any free samples of your product? Which we'll get into in a few minutes. And she's like, sure, sent me some. And then all of a sudden, Carrie and I realized we were both part of a WeBank national pitch competition and both had made it to the national finals. So, it's a product that I love, and I'm going to let Carrie tell you all about it today.
I'm going to jump in here because, we just need to stop and pause and celebrate that you both made it to the finals. Like, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. So I'm doing a shout out to say just congratulations. Well done, ladies. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
That's really huge. You should be really proud of yourselves.
Thanks. It was fun. It was a good experience. I think the hardest part is they start you as a 3-minute pitch and then you went to a 2-minute pitch and the final was a 1-minute pitch. And y'all are listening to me. I can barely introduce myself in 1 minute, never mind do an entire business pitch. So that was super hard. I don't know, Carrie, if you felt the same way.
Yeah, because I think you start the 3-minute pitch thinking, what is the most important thing about my business? And then you really drill it in that these are the things that I need to cover. And then, you have a third of that time by the last round that you really need to. But it's a great exercise. It was so hard, but you're like, okay, what actually? I thought this was the core of my business, but what is the core in 1 minute?
I love that. Before we get into your story, Carrie, I would love for each of you to share what was the biggest learning about yourself going through this process. Carrie, why don't you start us off?
I think that I've always been really comfortable public speaking. So I think that what I learned about myself was really to embrace that. I think that I hadn't been doing a ton of it. I've been hiding behind my laptop building my business, but it really reminded me that it was something that I enjoy doing and to seek out more opportunities, whether it's a pitch contest or even opportunities like this, speaking. It's on my 2026 vision board is to do more of these opportunities.
Love that. And Colleen, we haven't had this conversation. What was the biggest lesson that you learned about yourself going through this process?
I'd say it's a little bit of the same. I stayed away from pitch competitions because when you hear about Carrie's product, it's hard to pitch a service up against a product, right? I'm saying, hey, we can develop your leaders, we can make them better, we can do all these great things. And then there's somebody who's pitching a thing and they're like, look at my beautiful thing. Let me show you what it does. And I never had that flashiness. And this was one of the first times I saw a pitch competition where they separated those two out. So we had a service category and a product category. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's probably more of these out there. Like, these are really fun. I really enjoyed it. And I think the same as Carrie, it made me really stop and think about what's the core, what's the thing that I really want people to know about my business. And every time I advanced to the next round, I remember saying to my husband, like, I can't believe I'm advancing with all of these amazing, over-the-top, fabulous people. Like, everybody's pitching these great products. And I feel like it was like here's little old me. And then the more we went through it, the more I was like, all right, like, it's on. Like, yes, it is me. Like, our business, Maxity is that good. I'm excited to get out there and talk about it. So.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. So, Carrie, we're going to bring you back to little you. So I want to know, what did little Carrie think she was going to be when she grew up?
So this is kind of hilarious. The first thing that I remember, like, telling my parents this is what I want to do and kind of pretending to do it around the house was I wanted to be a waitress, and specifically a cocktail waitress. I think that as a child of the 80s, seeing all these movies where the waitresses were in these like cute little outfits and running around with their pads. It just seemed like very adult and chic to be a cocktail waitress in your high heels. And that I used to take my family's order for dinner, even though we knew exactly what we were having. I would put on an apron and walk around with a little notepad.
I did that. Oh my goodness. I totally did that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I never did go into hospitality, but I used to do the same thing.
my girls did the same, and my favorite were the days that they would make the menu. Right, we're like, we knew what we were having for dinner. I cooked it, but they would come up with some menu in their, like, 5-year-old handwriting that we were trying to
Cute.
read to put our orders from. I love that. And so um, it ends up that is not what you studied and not what you did. And so, when you were kind of finishing your education, like, what did you think you were going to do? Like, what was your kind of thought there? I mean, you went to UPenn, so you're not talking, you were definitely not a slacker back in the day. Not that you're a slacker now either, right? But, you go to this, very prestigious school. And what did you think you were going to do as you came out of that?
I really had no idea. I was a communications and economics double major, and going into my senior year, I had interned with Coach and really thought that was fun, but still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do when I graduated. And at Penn, a lot of people go into investment banking or different financial programs or different consulting programs where they get their job almost a year before they graduate or at the end of a
Mhm.
summer internship. So they know their whole senior year what they're doing. And I was more interested in fashion, retail, advertising, and none of these companies hired until 2 weeks before they needed something. So I remember being so stressed out and trying to find a job at the beginning of the school year. And people were like, call us back in May, and having a whole panic attack. But because I interned at Coach, I was naturally getting a lot of interest from different fashion brands. So my first job out of school was at Kenneth Cole, which was great. It was a lot of fun.
And some of my
That's
favorite
awesome.
shoes, I must say. So so did you stay in that area, right? Like for most of your early to up until recently, like was that really what you were doing?
Yeah, I spent about the first decade of my and a half of my career in accessories and had moved from Kenneth Cole then to Judith Lieber, which is an American luxury heritage brand, where I thought I was going to stay there for forever. I was doing sales and operations, which was a great fit for my personality. And that's where I got to do some of this public speaking we were talking about, because I would go to different retailers, whether it was their corporate office or a store event, and get to talk to either the management or the customers all about the products. And I had so much fun doing that. But then the company was sold and there were a lot of changes happening. So then a newer competitor in the space was Edie Parker, which was a high-end handbag brand at the time. They've since pivoted into cannabis. And that I was gone before
Wow.
that happened, but that was quite the
That's
pivot.
a pivot. Yeah.
Um, but so the owner of that company was like, I hear that things are shaking up a little bit where you are. Would you love to come and be our second employee? And that's kind of where I got the entrepreneurial bug. And it was really a great experience working in a small environment and being able to take what I learned from like the first decade of my career and then implement it for somebody else's business. But it did start that, working in that small environment and then hiring and building the team and really building the brand um, got me curious about what it would be like to do my own thing. And I sort of took baby steps into it. So when I left Edie Parker, I was traveling a lot. I had my first son, knew I wanted to get pregnant again. So the gig economy was just starting, and we were having a lot of consultants come into the brand. And I figured, why can't I try being on the other side of this equation and being the one stepping into other people's business at my discretion and not have to travel with a toddler and hopefully becoming pregnant again soon. So that's what I did. And that was so I took a bit of a natural process. And when it was working for other women's brands, had the idea for SWAIR and slowly just started um, spending more time developing that idea and less time consulting. And then COVID hit. And all of my clients were like, can we get out of our contracts? We don't know what's going on in the world. And, being human and fortunately being in a position where I was in a, dual income situation where I said, okay, I can let you out of your contract. And then started working on SWAIR full time at the end of March 2020 and haven't looked back.
I love that. Carrie, I just want to rewind a little bit into your story because there's a few things that I feel like our listeners would love to hear more about. And then the first one is, it's common that entrepreneurs who actually take the leap into being a full-time entrepreneur start with their idea off the side of their desk. And, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how I would ever make that pivot. And so I would love to hear maybe your top one or two pieces of advice to somebody that might be listening who has a brilliant, amazing, awesome idea, but doesn't know what to do with it. What words of wisdom would you share with them in terms of how they can get started?
I think that the number one piece of advice is just to ask questions. I think that so many professionals are eager and willing to share their advice, especially with somebody who's just starting out. We all love to talk about ourselves and what we've done.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
really asking questions and finding the people that are willing to go to step one with you, like take you from 0 to 1 and explain the basics. Finding out who will do that and who is just going to brush you off, that also can be a really great path to partnership. So when we were thinking about SWAIR products, and I have no chemistry background, so I started calling chemists at different formulators. And, one of the ones who was very patient with me, who had was like willing to give me ideas and be very upfront with me about the challenges and the benefits of doing different things in the industry. That ended up being our first contract manufacturer. So I think it's really just asking questions. And I'm sure both of you also get people sliding into your DMs or your LinkedIn, and more often than not, we're happy to chat. So I think it's just finding people to ask the questions, and don't be afraid, because I know I was really worried about getting judged and people being like, you want to start this company, you don't know anything about hair care. But it was you have to learn somehow.
Well, and that's the thing, is that we don't have to know everything. It's the same as leadership. Leaders don't have to know the ins and outs of every single position on their team. There's no difference. And that's the thing about I love it, having the conversation. Shocking. That's the number one piece of advice. Is, Colleen and I are constantly hammering that home to anybody that we can share that piece with. I love it. Having the conversations and knowing what you don't know, and seeking out the people whose areas of expertise might be just that. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's powerful. I mean, it's just all about sharing stories, getting curious, and asking questions.
I think the other part for me has always been to like find my people, right? To build that community and to, I feel like I keep gathering more and more entrepreneurs as I go through life. And they're everyone from, people who make products like SWAIR, right? To, people who do similar work to me. But I find as I gather these great groups, and for me, they tend to just be all women. As I gather those groups of women, right, we're just constantly learning from each other. And are able to be vulnerable and come in and say, well, like this year, I've had a number of people over the last month who've gotten on calls with me and been like, wow, it was a really shitty year, right? 2025 was not what I thought it was going to be. How do I make sure 2026 is, right? And we all start to brainstorm. So, all right, Carrie. So we've dropped the word SWAIR a few times, and it's not what everybody's thinking. So tell us what SWAIR is, because I remember seeing your TikTok and being like, this is brilliant. I can't tell you how many times I've put a post on Facebook asking my friends for how do I solve this problem. probably at least 10 times in the past couple of years. So tell us what the problem is that you solved and what the product is.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2006, I started getting really into running. And the following year, I had signed up for a marathon training group. And I met my now business partner, best friend, bridesmaid, very important person in my life, Meredith, and we would run together. And we would always be ducking out of runs early or constantly complaining because we were so sweaty that we had to wash our hair after every run. And we were running most days of the week. So, dry shampoo doesn't work if you're really sweaty. It also, many of the ones on shelves are really problematic from a health and ingredient standpoint. I always say, there are some better for you ones, but most of them that are in people's carts are kind of like a dirty little secret of the beauty industry, with the carcinogens that are loaded in the formulations and byproducts through the aerosolization products process. So we had tried dry shampoos. It wasn't working for our sweaty hair. So we were stuck washing our hair almost every day. It was taking a ton of time. It was ruining our hair and scalp. And we complained about it for more than a decade, and thought there had to be a better way. So going back to starting to have these conversations, it was at the end of 2019. So truly 12 years after we've been complaining, I put together a brief, and this was before ChatGPT. So I actually spent a lot of time putting together this brief of the product that was missing from our life, what we wanted to look like, smell like, feel like, and the problem that it needed to solve was how to clean your sweaty hair without the full wash and dry. So we shopped it around to different labs and started having those conversations. Can you make this? What are your minimums like? What kind of science is involved in this? And most people either blew us off or told us, oh, I have a dry shampoo and you can put your label on it. And we're like, no, we want the next thing. We want an alternative to dry shampoo. And finally, a couple of labs were willing to try to formulate this product and have those conversations with us. And then our showerless shampoo was born. So it's a product that you spray on your very sweaty hair. It's not a powder-based formula or an alcohol-based formula like dry shampoos. It is actually the consistency of water, and it mixes with the dirt and the sweat in your hair. And when you towel dry it out, you're actually cleaning the dirt and the sweat from your hair. So we like to say sweaty to ready in 5 minutes or less. And that was a
For
big
those of you looking today, I would say I got two compliments this morning already on my hair. And people like, ooh, like, did you get your hair cut? Did you get your hair done? And I was like, no, I went to the gym this morning and then I used SWAIR. Right. And it's amazing to me because, like I said, I can't tell you how many times through the years that I've posted on Facebook to my friends or asked my trainer at the gym or my hairstylist, right? Like I can't go for a run at lunchtime. I can't go out and exercise at lunch because I come back a sweaty mess and it's going to take me an hour to get ready to get back to work. And that's why I used to be like, it sucks to be a woman. I want to be a man who can go do this. And like literally, I mean, my husband pretty much has no hair, right? He could literally just wipe his head off and he's good to go, where we can't. So I remember being so enthralled with this, and it works.
Okay, I'll have to try it.
Can you get it in Canada yet? Or is it just a US?
We'll work it out. We have a shipping threshold on our website for Canada.
Whoa. I happen to be living in the US right now.
Oh, that's right. You do have a few. You have some time that we can get it to you in California. I always forget that.
No, there we go. So I can either go to the store and buy it, or
we can get it to you in California.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so when I hear you tell that story, right, like for Christina and I starting our businesses, it was like, oh, I need to get a website, right? Like that was the big important thing. Oh, let me make sure I'm doing things legally and the right tax structure or things like that. For you, it was chemists, right? Like to me, this is a whole nother level. Like you had this great idea and you were trying to go there. Part of me is like, how'd you have the courage to jump in? Or like what, like when you said, oh yeah, we called around all these chemists, I don't know that I would have even known to start with, how do I go find it? Like that I need a chemist to help me figure out how to make a sweaty shampoo liquid.
Yeah, well, Google was very helpful. We definitely are on the Google path to success with a lot of our business. Um, and yeah, I think that for me, the biggest barrier was learning that the contract manufacturing industry exists. And I actually learned that through my time consulting, where I was working with a lot of female founders in different product businesses, primarily in like the fashion and accessory space where I had my background, but realizing that a lot of these women didn't have the quote unquote traditional training, but had an idea for something differentiated and then found the more technical partner, whether it was, an individual or a company, to actually bring it to life. And it sounds kind of silly looking back that I just didn't know that was an option. I had assumed prior to that beauty founders were like concocting in their kitchens, over the stove making product. But when I saw it happening in other industries, that sort of clicked for me when I had the idea for this product or like knew this white space existed. What is, the version of that for a beauty product?
Well, and if you think about I was just thinking about, of all people, Victoria Beckham, and watched her documentary or her Netflix series just recently, actually, and had actually no idea about her story. And some of the things that she, well, has now built an empire on has nothing to do with her education, her upbringing, her singing career, being part of the Spice Girls, but it was born, her fashion and the makeup line was all born from just passion
Mm-hmm.
and interest. And I think, again, people forget that, you really can bring a passion alive. You can turn a passion into a profession, so to speak. And you don't have to be the expert on, it is all about, like you say, I'll use your words, is solving a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and having that interest and that desire and that curiosity to say, like, how do I bring this together and make it work? So, I really hope that this episode lands with at least one person in terms of, how do I take something that I'm truly excited about, truly passionate about, and how do I bring that to fruition as an entrepreneur, whether it be full-time or just off the side of your desk.
And something that I was very honest with myself about in the beginning was, just because you take the first step doesn't necessarily mean you're climbing the hill. Like for me, making those initial calls, putting that brief together, it was more an exercise of, is this even possible?
Yeah, I
And
love it.
if it wasn't possible, that would be one thing. But there was no, even learning that it's possible or that there's somebody that can make it or help you, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. So I was very, besides Google, like I was very about baby steps. It wasn't, I'm going, obviously now I'm all in 5 years later. But at the very beginning, it wasn't like I'm building this brand. It was, I'm going to explore this. Okay, if I did this, what are some names? Are they available? For websites, has anybody trademarked these words? Like it was really intentional baby steps at the beginning.
And really, if you think about like anything out there, being really intentional, I feel, gets you further down the pathway than, I mean, sure, there are times where you just go, all right, I'm tipping over. And yet, if you think about like when you actually hear people's stories, there is a lot of intentionality in terms of how they get from A to B to C to D. And when you're intentional, I feel like there's so much more clarity, and and then you're making intentional pivots along the way as you learn and gather and have those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that um, it's it's really about just kind of like anything. Like I know that you're the cyclist, right?
Oh, I am. Yeah.
I'm
from like,
not.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
How did you figure that out?
I did my listening.
Did you do
I
some
did my listening,
research?
but it's,
Yeah.
it's like, or like in running, we say run the mile you're in. And it's
Yeah.
really just about, you know, having the vision and the passion, but yeah, just doing the work step by step. I feel like
Yeah.
I keep repeating myself, but that really is what it's all been
You know
about.
what though? You are probably the first person that I can think of that has actually shared those words of wisdoms, of actually almost like I sort of get the feeling of like just pulling back and being real. There's power in slowing down. We don't always have to be going 100 miles an hour thinking that that's what's going to get us to the next greatest thing. There's actually a lot that can be learned and explored, and when we just slow it down. So I do love that. Yeah, I have a coach, if I put it into the bike analogy, who has slowed me down. I don't have to go and ride 100K an hour, or not an hour, sorry, 100K each
Wow,
ride.
Christine, you are quite
I know.
impressive.
I know. No, not 100K an hour. God. You know what? It's early here. You are my first conversation this morning. I don't have to go out and do 100K rides all the time, and it's about riding. My biggest lesson this year is riding with purpose.
Mhm.
And so it's okay if it's 35. Sorry, I'm speaking Canadian speak here, 35 kilometers, a 35-kilometer ride. But if I ride with intentionality and I ride with purpose, I get more out of that 35 or 40K than I do out of 100K. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and so SWAIR has been blowing up, right? I see it now that I know it. Now I feel like I see it everywhere. Though I'm probably your target person, and
I haven't seen it, but
yeah,
that's
you're
okay.
not
I'm
on, you're
gonna go
not on the
find it.
socials as much here, Chris.
I
Not.
know. I know. I
The
know. I've
Algorithm
been
will
pushing our
find
stuff.
you
Yeah,
now that you've said the name of the brand in front of your phone. We will find you.
yeah, 100%.
I know. Oh, I know. It'll be all over my Instagram. I love
So
it.
how has that been for you, right? The taking it from this, okay, during COVID of all times, right? During like this baby product, this idea that you had, starting to get it out, and now it's legitimately out in the world. You have multiple products now. I mean,
Mhm.
three?
Yeah, we
Three.
have three
Yeah.
products now.
I'm like, I've used two. I haven't used the third one yet. But right, that like how has this been for you? Like this whole get it out there. Like, is it, I mean, I feel like it's either harder or easier than most people think. I don't think everyone's like, oh, that's exactly what I thought. And for most people, I think it's harder than they think, right? This is not a easy battle to kind of get into the space, but you have something that's just so unique. So I'm wondering how that's been feeling for you to kind of get it out there in the world and watch it grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much harder than I ever thought it was going to be. If I'm being transparent, we're 5 years in, and while we've had great growth and the brand recognition is certainly growing, I'm not where I thought I would be 5 years in. I'll be honest. But we're still on a great path and we're still very much at the beginning of our journey. So I'm not, it's been pivots and reframing. So I'm not down on that, but I'll also be honest about it as well. But having a brand new product is amazing and immensely difficult at the same time because people just want to compare you to what they know. So, they're like, I tell them about the product. We have something that you use when you get really sweaty to clean your hair quickly. Oh, so you make dry shampoo. And I'm like, kind of like we're what you use when your hair is too sweaty for dry shampoo, but it's dry shampoo, right? Like you have to re-educate everybody, which is a
Yes.
lot more challenging than I thought. And even people who buy the product just assume you use it like a dry shampoo, which you don't. So we've had to do a lot of different iterations with things.
Right. Read the card that comes in the packet.
Yes.
Right.
So, but that wasn't there at first. We had to learn the hard way that people aren't gonna, read the back of the bottle. So, okay, let's give them something else that's in their face.
Yeah.
right?
I've
Because it's,
actually never used a dry shampoo. Like I've never actually used that product.
well, and if you use it and your hair's sweaty, you just
Mhm.
get disgusting
Slime.
caked slime. I mean,
Mhm.
dry
Oh,
shampoo,
really?
yeah, it's, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of crap in it too, but to me,
Mhm.
it feels like baby powder. Like it feels like you're
Mhm.
Mm.
spraying baby powder on your hair, which I have to say, when I was a kid, I remember my grandmother was really sick and in the hospital, and my mom would bring baby powder to the hospital to wash her hair with, right? Because she couldn't wash her hair. So you put some baby powder in and it, like, absorbs the oil. But
Mhm.
if you do that when your hair's sweaty, it just, I mean, my hair is gray now, so now the dry shampoo doesn't notice. But when my hair was brown,
Mhm.
and you'd spray this white stuff on sweaty hair, you then had brown hair with like white slime in your hair. It was disgusting. Um,
Hmm.
so it just definitely didn't clean your hair. It just kind
Mhm.
of prolonged it. So I think that whole piece is interesting. And I know you've been on exciting things, right?
Mhm.
You've been on the Today Show. You've, been in magazines and things like that. And it must feel like every time you take that step forward, you're like, this is it, right? Like we're this is the day.
Yeah, I think that for Swear and probably for most product based or not, most businesses, it's you get these boosts of momentum that are amazing. And it's figuring out how to capitalize on those and continue those. And I think that that has been amazing when they occur. And then it's almost like a sugar high. And you're like, oh my God, it's like you're buzzing and everything is amazing. And then when the little mini boom you get from that starts to slow down, it's almost this panic mode of how do we keep it going? How do we turn these people who discovered us for a moment into lifelong customers? What's going to be our next you're like a junkie trying to get your fix without like a more sophisticated terminology. Like, what's going to
Yes.
be our next moment in the sun? So that's a tricky part of brand building as well, is like stringing together these little moments to overall grow your cachet and keep all of the people who have discovered you, keep them engaged in a world where we are getting pinged. I don't know, there's crazy statistics about how many ads you see a day and all the things fighting for your attention, and you need to capture the customer in 3 seconds. It's crazy, all of these statistics.
So, how do you keep yourself grounded in the world of entrepreneurship where there are constant ebbs and flows?
I think that from like a realistic perspective,
Mhm.
or like a day-to-day perspective, I have 2 kids and a husband. So I'm based in New York City. I go to a bunch of founder events and I'm meeting people who graduated college a minute ago. And I'm so inspired by them because they're taking the entrepreneurial journey right away, which was something that I was not for me at the time. And they are working 24/7, 365, and experiencing real burnout and don't really have much to anchor them outside of their entrepreneurial journey. But being a mom and a wife, and having those things before starting, it really gives balance to my day and to my life. And sometimes it's because I get a call from the school nurse and I have to stop whatever I'm doing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's much more intentional of, okay, laptop is closing, phone is going in the other room because there's, 90 minutes till bedtime and I want to make the most of it. So I think that like practically it's having, you know, more important things outside of my journey, even though it means so much to me, this business, it is blood, sweat, and tears. Um, but my kids and my family mean more. And I can say that very easily. And then I also have an incredible co founder who I mentioned before. And having someone to kind of wellness check you is also
So
really important.
important.
So, whether
Yeah.
it's a co founder, a mentor, a friend, someone to say, you're on vacation, why are you responding to these emails? Like the little things like that you get from having an accountability partner, whether it's formal or not, I think is so important, because without those two things, I would be the person 24/7, 365, not sleeping, not eating, working on the
Yeah.
business.
Well, what I'm hearing are boundaries.
Mhm.
And what I love about your story is that it was flipped.
Mhm.
Just like you said, you had those things before the entrepreneurial spirit and the entrepreneurial journey, and yet you've been able to really hold on to what is truly important at the end of the day, and not letting the business and all of that kind of stuff bleed into, or take precedence.
Mhm.
And so you've nailed it. So many people, the thing about the individuals that are going into the entrepreneurial world right out of school, what I'm seeing out there is that individuals that are graduating from a lot of MBA schools are purchasing businesses and entering the entrepreneurial world through that door. And that's just a completely different journey. We might have to have somebody on the podcast that's done that, because that would be an interesting story to hear. But I love that. I love your boundaries. I love how you haven't lost sight of what, at the end of the day, what brings me joy and what is my truly important to me. So that takes a lot of, I don't even know. Like, well, we all know setting boundaries is easy. Holding them is what's really fucking hard.
And having that accountability person, right? Having that other person, be it a partner, a spouse, a friend, right? I always say it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're looking for a new job, if you're being an entrepreneur, if you're trying to run a marathon this year, right? Having that accountability person in your life, boy, it makes such a difference, right? The person you have to say, this is what I did
Yeah.
or didn't do.
Yeah, I think I'm becoming that for my sister. She just went on vacation and said she was going to pack her iPad or her laptop or something. And then I guess she stopped, and she texted me. She's like, I'm not doing it. I was like, oh my God, hallelujah, fucking finally. Just leave it at home and go on vacation with your family and enjoy it. So,
Did that for Thanksgiving, right? I went to London for 8 days
yes.
and I didn't bring my laptop, which there's a few times I wish I had it, not even for work reasons, but for other reasons. But I knew if I had it for other reasons, I would have checked work email. I would have done that,
Mhm.
where otherwise I didn't.
Yeah.
Carrie, this has
Yeah.
been such a fun
It's cool.
conversation. So much fun. And, for everybody who's listening, if you have not tried SWAIR or have never heard of it, like, go follow them on TikTok, follow them on their social media, and go buy a bottle, because
Okay, I
it
might have to
is
try.
so fun. But before we wrap up, we always go into our rapid fire fun questions. So we're going to jump into some for you.
All
All right.
right.
Here we go. Right? Really important stuff here. Heels or sneakers?
Ooh, I'm like 50-50, but I'm choosing one, I'll have to do sneakers. The runner in me.
Yeah.
I
I
had
think
this
we all are.
conversation last week, but it's like all those brands that are now making the sneakers that look like heels, or the heels that look like sneakers,
Yeah,
whichever way
Sarah
you look at.
Blakely, the
Mhm.
Yeah,
founder of Spanx, like
right.
launched
Just
this.
launched. What's the
Yeah,
company? Sneaks. It's not
sneaks.
Sneaks. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, there's a bunch of them out there, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
like, are they? Do they really feel like sneakers? So I'm curious now. Curious enough to want to go try a pair, but I don't know. I don't know if I like what they look like, but either way, right? That in between. All right. So, what do you bring into the potluck?
Always dessert. I love to bake. I'm a stress baker. That was another COVID thing. So something sweet, and specifically tiramisu.
Nice.
Oh, fancy.
Very good. Very good.
Seems fancy, quite easy and
Is it
difficult to
really
mess up.
easy?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a baker.
Yeah. Tiramisu is one of those ones that, right, you can put in fancy glasses and really look super fancy, and people going, wow, your dessert. You're like, if only you knew. Right? This was much easier than
Really? It's an easy make, hey?
there you go. If you need something fancy to bring, you can try that. All right. So, what are you binging or streaming on TV these days? And you have two kids, so it might even be.
Yeah. So in my adult binging time, I'm watching Pluribus, which is the new
Ooh.
show from the makers of Breaking Bad,
Ah.
and I'm very, very into it. It's great.
Ooh, I will have to check that one out. And how about, do you have the kid shows that your like family is always binging?
So we really like watching cooking shows together, which is really funny because my kids are not that adventurous eaters, though it has helped a little bit. So we
Cool.
like to watch like Beat Bobby Flay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's like a million episodes, so we will never get through it. But
Love
that's
it.
like a fun, easy family watch. They're like 20 minutes. So it's like, all right, got a little time before bed. Let's pop one on.
We used to do that when my kids were little and they got obsessed with Chopped. And so we started playing Chopped. So we would pull out 4 or 5 ingredients and have them make something. Um,
That's so
and
smart.
it
I'm
was
stealing
so
that.
fun. But I will say, I was never the one to taste test because I was like, oh, so you microwaved cheese and added graham crackers. My husband would taste them. He was much more of a fan. But it was really fun to get them to like learn to start to learn
That's a
cooking
great
skills.
idea.
That's cool.
It was very fun. All right. What color brings you the most joy?
I love yellow. It's a happy color. It's our newest product color.
Oh, all right. What's the newest product?
So the newest product is called Speed Mask. So it is a hair mask that works in 60 seconds because who has the time for like a 15, 20-minute hair mask?
Right, where you
So
have to
just
shower and then shower after the hair mask. Never have
yeah,
time.
exactly. So you just put this on wet, dry, or sweaty hair, wait 60 seconds, go in and rinse it off and do your regular hair in the shower wash day routine. And thank you for letting me promote that.
Excellent. Okay, our last question is, do you have a book recommendation for our listeners, either fiction or nonfiction?
I just reread Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. I don't know if
Oh,
either of you have ever read that,
I have not.
No.
but
Adding it to the list.
she's a psychologist and it's actually in the self-help section, but it is not a self-help book.
Okay.
And she's a psychologist and she talked about her own journey as being a psychology patient when she was going through a period in her life that was difficult, and then also writes about her patients. And she writes them, she says it's like an amalgamation of just different people she's seen, and she writes them as characters, and it is so beautiful. And I read it when I was younger, and took certain things away, and now that I'm older I took other things away. I love it and I recommend it to everybody.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic. I love getting new. Some weeks I feel like I do this podcast just so I can have like new TV show recommendations and new book recommendations. So, okay. So if our listeners want to find you, where can they find you? Where do they find SWAIR?
We are at SWAIR Hair, so it's SWAIR spelled like hair, on all the socials. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, hello@swearhair.com if you like emails. And it's myself or my co-founder answering all of them. So
Love it.
Excellent. And if folks want to buy it, where do they buy it online at the moment, or where
yeah,
can
so
they buy it?
swearhair.com,
Yep.
and Amazon are our two main points of sales. And we're also in a lot of different gyms, like in their little retail area up front and in their locker rooms where you can try it. So you can also talk to your gym about bringing it in if you're interested, and want to try it in their locker room before you buy it for yourself. But those are our main points of sale.
Fantastic.
I will give it a try because I certainly wash my hair a lot.
We will get you some for sure. We'll figure that out.
That's very sweet.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, Carrie, thanks so much for being our guest today. This has been so much fun.
So much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, so folks, right,
You're
if
welcome.
this sparked something for you, please reach out to us. You can find us at Embrace the Squiggle on TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and let us know how much you love this. And if you get a chance, please rate and review us on the different podcast apps because that helps other people find Embrace the Squiggle.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Is it time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.